there's just too much. There's too much going on for anyone to keep up with all of it. I've compiled the biggest news stories for this past week for Ripple and XRP. We're going to get into it. For those of you that can't keep up with the day-to-day minutia, and there's some big stories on here that I even missed. And I'll tell you this, some of the less covered stories, they're some of the biggest and most important. So we're going to dig into all of this. Now, the first one on deck here, we had two analysts from Bloomberg. They raised the approval odds for crypto ETFs just in general for the whole space. And specifically for XRP, they boosted the odds of an XRP ETF being approved in 2025, at this year, not at some point in the future, but this year, to 90% or higher, they put. So it's almost a certainty. And again, this isn't some, far off time. It's happening this year. That's exciting. I think that's going to drive a lot of value, and it's going to open up this asset to a whole new class of investor. Now, with that, we saw Canada. Canada approved 3 XRP spot ETFs this week. And, it's not the US. They're not the same size, but it's a significant market. It sets the tone. It puts pressure on US regulators to match what they're doing. And further, it just, further legitimizes XRP as an investable asset, one that should trade on traditional markets. And, Canada's leading the way. The US should follow here shortly. That's no small deal. I mean, we would have been going crazy in other years if Canada had approved a spot XRP ETF. We got 3 of them this week alone, and look for a whole lot more to be approved here in the United States. Now, XRP, it hit a historic milestone here. Over 2,700 whale wallets now hold at least 1 million XRP tokens, marking the highest count in the asset's 12-year history. So people are just acquiring more and more XRP. Blockchain analytics firm Sentiment reported that this unprecedented whale accumulation, alongside a surge in active addresses that are averaging 295,000 XRP daily, significantly exceeding the typical 35 to 40 range. So big-time investors, there are more of them acquiring XRP and at a much faster pace. What do they always say out there? Follow the money, follow the big money. They know what's coming, and something's brewing, and I think we're going to see XRP, when it's time, and it may be here short, is really going to take off. Now, a lot of people are thinking that this court case is going to come to an end. There's been a lot of coverage about, Ripple and the SEC trying to get a settlement approved. They entered a critical phase where both parties requested a 60-day pause to the appeal. They would rather just settle it out now. No reason to continue this appeal. Legal experts suggest that the settlement framework could reduce Ripple's penalty from 125 million down to 50, and also getting rid of that injunction. Will the judge play along is really the question here. We've heard a lot of people say there's a very high bar. Judge Torres also said that, but that's typically because just one side is requesting it. In this case, both sides are. Both sides are saying, please let us settle this out. And she really should approve this. They're not fundamentally changing her ruling. The things that were illegal securities offerings still are that. They're not asking to change that. This is just about the penalties. And if both sides are okay with it, she should grant it. Now, there could be a political component to this. We don't know. But we shouldn't expect that because Judge Torres has been great throughout this whole process. So I'm looking for her to approve this. If not, it's actually my guess that Ripple just drops it, because they would have been happy with that dominating victory day one had the SEC not appealed it to begin with. I doubt they want to continue this battle. It's going to cost a lot of money to go through appeals, and further regulations should take care of any injunction. You're going to have clear rules. We're going to know what you can do, what you can't. So I don't think it's a major deal here. Now, there was this viral claim that the Federal Reserve, this came out this week, was using XRP now for all of its payments on FedNow. This was a huge story on X. And even though it got a lot of traction, it was put out by a notorious kind of scam account, if you will, that puts out fake stories. There is nothing that indicates that's a true story. Now, Volante Technologies is a FedNow partner, and they've integrated Ripple's blockchain technology, but there's no official confirmation that directly shows XRP is being used by the Federal Reserve. I'm sure someday they will leverage that technology. They may leverage XRP directly. I don't think it's happening now. We have no reason to believe that other than some wackadoo X account claiming this. It's kind of nonsense here. Also, another fake news story. Social media exploded this week when there was a report that Elon Musk planned to purchase $50 billion worth of XRP. And this was the kicker at $600 per token. You should know right there that that's just silly. That ain't happening. If the market price is $2.20, he ain't buying at 600. We know this is nuts. And this was Crypto Geek, again, another notorious account for just putting out stupid stuff. And for whatever reason, it really caught a lot of fire. People, started retweeting it and talking about it, and it's just not happening. Now, I'm not saying Elon Musk may not own any XRP. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but he's not going to buy 50 billion worth at 600 bucks. It's a totally bogus report. Now, we had some of the underreported stories, and one is XRP Ledger DeFi infrastructure. This is really a revolution, and they released the roadmap for 2025 here, and there's going to be just this massive focus on institutional DeFi expansion with compliance first features that remain significantly undercovered this week. People aren't talking about it. You're going to see XRP really be put in motion. It's just been sitting in wallets for so long as people hodl it, hope it goes up, and now they're going to be using it in DeFi. They're going to be using it in the EVM sidechain. They're going to be using XRP and Flare and AMM pools. Like, this is really going to drive value because now you have a token that people aren't just using just for payments, but they're using for swaps. They're using it for DeFi applications. It's really going to start being used in a huge way. And this institutional DeFi, that's a big one because people are going to acquire this asset knowing it's going to appreciate very quickly. And also they're going to be able to earn yield off of it. Also a focus on multi-purpose tokens, which will enable institutions to tokenize bonds, other RWAs, and I think that's really where most of your institutions want to go here. They are so interested in RWAs. That's where they want to build out their infrastructure. Now, also CBDCs. It's at least here in the U.S., we don't like the concept of them. We think tyrannical governments are going to use CBDCs to control us, and they probably will. But Ripple has, a heck of a system here for CBDCs. And they're just continuing to see adoption and testing, and they're getting a lot of traction here. Recently, Colombia Central Bank selected Ripple for its pilot project, demonstrating real-world implementation success while the platform processes tens of thousands of transactions per second using XRP's energy-efficient consensus protocol. This private ledger architecture provides central banks complete sovereignty over digital currencies while leveraging proven blockchain technology. So, they're building out these private CBDCs. They'll link up with the XRP ledger, and we're probably going to see more of that. Whether you like it or not, I'm not a fan of CBDCs and where that's going to take us in the future and how much privacy and control we will lose. But every government globally wants this. They'll have to be interoperable, though. They'll have to link up with blockchains. That's just the way this is going to go. And Ripple is a leader in that space. Enterprise stablecoin integration, of course, that continues with RLUSD. We're seeing good growth. We're seeing adoption. And I think, you're going to get someone big using that stablecoin here shortly, probably after the stablecoin bill is passed and it's legal and banks can, really use this. Now, I think the big one is the EVM sidechain. There just is not enough chatter about this. The XRP Ledger's Ethereum Virtual Machine EVM sidechain launch is scheduled for Q2 of this year. So, any time now. And this is going to enable Solidity-based decentralized applications on the XRP Ledger while maintaining interoperability with Ethereum's ecosystem. We're going to tack on that functionality we need to do complicated tasks without having a problem with the performance of the layer one main chain. Take all that complicated stuff, throw it off on the EVM sidechain. Now, they link together. It's all part of one ecosystem, but there is a flurry of development going on right now. This isn't one of those things where, it's an exciting thing that people talk about on X, but no one's using. Like, there are so many people lined up to leverage that and do so in a huge way. And I think the minute that thing launches, you're going to see DApps, you're going to see lending, DeFi, all sorts of really exciting stuff ready to rock and roll. and start to be used in a way we have never seen within the XRP ecosystem. Keep your eye on that EVM sidechain. That thing is going to be a game changer. I thought it was going to take much longer to develop and launch, and a heck of a lot longer to get people to use it. I was wrong on both accounts. I think this thing's going to be massive. Now, what was really interesting, we looked at the real stories, like specifically the ETF odds going up to 90%, and some of the other stories here. Brad Garlinghouse said, XRP could capture 14% of Swiss payments. Like some of these real stories, they move the price of XRP. They move the needle. And the fake ones, the Elon Musk 50 billion, the Federal Reserve, that got a ton of traction on X, a lot of interest, but the price actually went down a bit there. And I think it's, the smart money recognize this isn't true, this isn't real. And so those real stories, though, they move the price. And I think really it's what they're going to do long term that's going to matter. That's where you're going to get long term and sustainable price growth. We're just sitting here waiting for the next growth phase within crypto. I think it's coming pretty quick. And, I want to circle back to Brad Garlinghouse's comment. They've been talking about this forever. We're going to capture a certain percentage of Swift. This is what I would tell you. I think they can do it now. I think it's possible. And the reason for that is this. Before they were leveraging exchanges, all those transactions, you had slippage, you had extra costs. That all is going to go away. They're going to be using stable coins, very cheap to get into and out of. They're going to use on-chain liquidity. A lot of payments running through XRP is that kind of bridge currency, moving value between one type and into the other. And sourcing that all on chain is going to be next to free. And so now when you look at Ripple Pay, as they really scale this thing up, it really will be cheaper. And you're not going to have those exchange costs, and you're not going to have that slippage because you have a global market. And that is doable. And they may be able to take a big chunk of Swiss business here in the next 12 to 24 months because now they're bringing those costs down in a significant way. There's still some scaling that has to happen first to make this truly, a functional system. But it has a shot. Where before you looked at it and you say, you know what, it's just too expensive. And every one of those swaps, you're doing double swaps on each side of the payment, that costs money. That's inefficient. Now, as you take that on chain, it's near free, and that's a game changer. Let me know what you think down below. And we're looking for a big week this week upcoming. Hopefully, we get a settlement approved by the judge. But let me know what you think. As always, please like, please subscribe. The revolution will be televised right here on Jungle Link.